I've put close to 30 hours into Hogwarts Legacy, and there is still a lot to do. However, I have seen enough to give you a really good idea of what you will be getting into if you just so happen to find yourself being whisked away into a magical world full of mythical beasts, evil goblins, and adventure. If you're interested in some gameplay, check out the live stream. And make sure you stick around to the end to see how this game ranks.
It appears we are almost ready to depart.
The game starts off following a newly accepted student into Hogwarts, but not as a regular old first year, oh no. They are coming into Hogwarts as a fifth year, a unique occurrence that nobody at the school has ever heard of happening. On their way to the castle, accompanied by their mentor, Professor Fig, an accident prevents them from getting to their destination, setting into motion a long journey of self-discovery and trying to solve a mystery over 100 years old. So get ready, because this school year is gonna get crazy.
And how is there a room behind it?
What room? I don't see anything.
I would say if Harry Potter were okay for the kids, this game will be alright too. Mild violence, perhaps a little bit more magic fighting than was in Harry Potter, and a little bit of alcohol use. No foul language or graphics. It's whimsical fun through and through. Entertainment for you and the kids.
You're the one who released Treadwell, aren't you? That was...
Hogwarts Legacy starts off with a considerably lackluster character creation. There were quite a few options for the body, but they were all presets. No fine-tuning for the perfect size or placement. After the body was decided, a voice could be selected. And there were only two options, a masculine and a feminine, each with 5 different pitches. They were the exact same voice, just modulated at a higher or lower pitch. The modulation was far too obvious for me to like anything but the actual voice.
I am indeed a student, but I could very well be a... That was quite something. A few cobwebs and some dust. It was wonderful. I believe I'm really going to... I'm eager to get to Hogsmeade. I am indeed a student, but I...
A few cobwebs and some dust.
After character creation, the game starts what feels like a never-ending tutorial. I mean, it is a game centered around learning various spells and lessons in school, so it makes sense to always be learning. But from the very start, there are puzzles or collectibles locked behind knowing a specific skill or going through a side quest explaining it. It could be 15 hours of gameplay before it's ever brought up. So there is quite a bit of backtracking required to collect everything. I absolutely hate backtracking, especially when it feels like it's never ending. To me, it feels like a pretty cheap way to lengthen a game. And this game is big already. The castle alone is big enough to explore for hours and still never find everything. Secret passages and locked doors, they hide so much. Until, a skill or mechanic unlocks them. So even if I explored everything from the start, I'd have to go back after learning more.
Must be different.
Outside the expansive castle is an even larger open world. Not long after the game starts, the outside opens. All of it can be traveled right away, but tough enemies could be blocking a path until the character is strong enough to take them on. Given the size, thankfully, there are plenty of mechanics used for traveling around. Scattered throughout the castle and the highlands are flue flames, magic green flames that can be used to teleport at a moment's notice. I did initially have to touch the flue flame before I could use it, but after its activation, I could travel to it through the map screen anytime. I like the fact that I didn't have to be next to a flame to use their network. I could just do it whenever I wanted. And of course, being a school for witches and wizards, there are magical brooms that can be ridden. That was so much fun. Flying above the trees and the rivers, taking in all the beautiful views. Learning how to fly was pretty simple. The broom was easy to control. One thing I didn't like about flying was the inability to move my camera up and down. When searching for things, it'd be nice to look directly down, but I could only move the camera left and right. I was constantly trying to look down, and that lock almost felt like a scratch that can't be itched,
You sure you're not part hippogriff?
But it's not all exploration and discovery. The world is full of ne'er-do-wells, ready to take anybody out that's not on their side, as well as puzzles, only solved by specific skills. The knowledge of useful spells to defend oneself is paramount for survival and exploration. There are a lot of spells in the world of Harry Potter, but they've been condensed down to a select few. Some spells are locked onto specific hotkeys or body placement, like Revelio, sensing everything around that can be interacted with, or Alohomora, used on locks right in front of the character. Spells like Repario and Levioso, however, would be placed on a set to be used whenever I wanted. There are a total of 4 sets that can be unlocked, each holding up to 4 spells for quick use. Starting out, there was only 1 set available, which quickly turned into a chore when I had to use a lot of spells in succession. If the spell I wanted to use wasn't equipped, I would have to open the menu and drag in the spell I needed, replacing another one in the set. When exploring, it's annoying. When in combat, it could mean death. When I started, I felt like the combat in the game could be quite complicated, with all the different spells at my disposal. But when fighting, I realized I could make it as complicated or as simple as I'd wanted to. There are a lot of different combos that can be used. I'm sure if I spent a little while learning and testing everything, I could come up with some devastating attacks. But I found a few spells I liked and pretty much stuck with those. A decent knowledge of the spells was important. The spells have different classes denoted by a color. Red for damage, yellow for control, etc. When fighting a fellow magic user, they would sometimes shield themselves from attack. The shields they used would be a specific color, depending on the magic they were using. That would let me know how to break their shield. Hit a purple shield with a purple spell, and bam! The enemy is open to attack.
Expelliarmus!
One thing that was hard to keep track of was what certain enemies were weak to. Some beasts were more prone to specific skills. Thankfully, that can all be read about in the Collections Journal. The Collections Journal is one of the most important things in Hogwarts Legacy. It plays many roles, one of which being a bestiary for enemies so I could learn more about them. It also kept track of all the different collectibles or actions I took, rewarding me after so many times. Usually with some sort of cosmetic item. So there are 6 pieces of gear that can be worn. A hat, gloves, glasses, scarf, robe, and attire. Sometimes an upgrade wouldn't quite fit my style, so the game actually lets me make my gear look like anything else of the same type, that being other pieces of gear I've found, or something that's only cosmetic. With that, someone could really immerse themselves into this game, making their character look like a steampunk witch, or even a troll-slaying knight. I would say where the character creation was lacking, it was made up for with the customization of gear and the Room of Requirements. What's the Room of Requirements, you wonder? In one word, I would have to say amazing. In the world of Harry Potter, the Room of Requirement would magically appear for someone in Hogwarts that requires something they really, really need. And it's where all the lost things go. Inside, I have the option to conjure various utilities, like a pot for my herbs, or a cauldron for making potions. All of the utilities have 4 different variations, so there's a main theme that can be followed throughout the room, or rooms. It's quite a big place. All the floors and walls can be customized too. So I can imagine hours spent customizing the room of requirement to fit someone's taste perfectly. So, we've established that the map for Hogwarts Legacy is big. But what about the story? Well, there is a lengthy main quest line to follow, but there is a plethora of side quests that almost have to be completed. Side quests were the main avenue for new spells and learning about various collectibles. There are a few spells learned through the main storyline in classes and such, but there are follow-up classes that are technically side quests, and the rewards are pretty important. In order to know all the spells and stay at a decent combat level, side quests and collectibles are the way to go.
I should look around in case it's nearby.
Hogwarts Legacy is a large open-world RPG, so that means levels and points to allocate into specific stats. After a few hours of gameplay, talents will unlock. For every new level, a talent point will be acquired. After level 5. These points are used to add special effects to spells, make some items more powerful, things like that. But beware, there is no changing the points after they are placed. So I had to think carefully about what I felt was most important for my game. One thing I just have to bring up is the atrocious inventory control. Only when it comes to gear. Everything else seems to have an infinite amount of space. But gear has a small space to cram everything into. Inventory can be increased as the game moves forward, but it's never enough. First, all the gear equipped takes up space in the inventory, so that's 6 spaces gone right off the bat. There were chests all over, constantly filling my bag with more gear. More often than not, I was unable to loot a chest because my inventory was full. So I would have to destroy a piece of equipment to make space instead of selling it. When I finally got somewhere to unload my bag, I would have to select the piece I was selling and keep my finger on the sell button for everything. There should really be a sell all or checkbox system. I can see why they wouldn't want me to sell anything with one click on accident. There is no buyback option for anything sold. All in all, it was just another thing to add to the length of the game. Okay, I've talked about a lot. And if you've made it this far, hit that like and sub for more in the future. There is still so much more to this game, but I don't want to spoil anything. Everything I brought up can be seen in the first 8 hours of gameplay. And this game is easily over 50 hours long. If you're a Harry Potter fan, I'm pretty sure you will love everything Hogwarts Legacy has to offer. But how do I ultimately rate this game? I wouldn't say I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, but I read all the books, and it is a really cool universe. This game, however, I would say has to go on the mid-shelf. I felt like a lot of the things to do in this game were more fluff than anything, making it feel larger than it really is. The game is fun, definitely worth the price it is now, but I wouldn't say it's all it's cracked up to be. If you've played it or disagree with what I have to say, tell me all about it in the comments below. As for me, I'm finished here and moving on to the next one. I will see you there. Bye!